What's good, Eagles fans? Welcome to another edition of Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. Now, week one is past, and these Detroit Lions have been knocked down, but we got to talk about the deficiencies of this team. It was clear. When you think about what these Philadelphia Eagles did or what they didn't do, they weren't really able to stop the run. And that's something that's really going to carry over into this Vikings game if Jonathan Gannon's defense doesn't tighten up. So, I got to be honest, when I was watching the game and they allowed that opening drive touchdown to go down, I wasn't happy, but because of the way it went down, it wasn't like the Detroit Lions really were able to march down the field. It wasn't like it was a long drive. They allowed a really big run. They got gashed by DeAndre Swift. And look, DeAndre Swift is one of the top backs in this league. You can make an argument that DeAndre Swift is a top 10 running back in his NFL. He's an up-and-coming guy, very young, born and raised in Philly, but you can't deny the fact that this defense really, missed a lot of tackles. They weren't really winning at the point of attack. It just seemed like we were always on, or the Philadelphia Eagles were always on their back foot. They were always backpedaling, and we weren't really able to get a pass rush either. For the most part, we held Jared Goff, to a pretty subpar game, but then it got to a point where he started to get into a rhythm, man. They started to attack us in the middle of the field, and they started to attack our safeties. And, this team really, really put themselves in a very trying position. Let's really put it in perspective. They took a really large lead on this team. They were up 21-7, and then they allowed that team to strike back 21-14, and then we went into the half, kicking a field goal, making it 24-14. But when you think about it, the Detroit Lions really didn't do anything spectacular, but I got to give them credit. Their defense was strictly prepared. The offensive line was prepared, and they dealt with a lot of injuries. That's just the reality. But we were healthy, and there's no reason why we shouldn't have played up to our standard. But I got to give credit once again. The Detroit Lions got better. They got better. You can't expect any less. A team is not going to remain the same year to year. You're always going to have some turnover. There's always going to be some improvements, or there might be some regression. In the Detroit Lions case, they improved. And I got to give credit where credit is due. But I think about that defensive line. They weren't able to get off their blocks. They weren't able to stop the run. As a matter of fact, DeAndre Swift averaged almost 10 yards per run. That can't happen, especially when you're going into week 2. You got the Minnesota Vikings, and you got a guy like Dalvin Cook on the other side of that ball. You got Justin Jefferson wide out. You got Adam Thielen out there. If the Eagles don't stop the run, Justin Jefferson is going to have a field day. If Dalvin Cook is averaging 5 yards a carry, not 9 yards, if he's averaging 5 yards a carry, if Dalvin Cook is averaging 4 yards a carry, the Eagles are going to be in trouble. But I anticipate this team to come out playing faster, playing with a sense of urgency, because even though they won that game in Detroit, somehow it felt like a loss to me. I didn't like the way it went down personally, because I expected more from this team. This team has much more talent than they had last year. And granted, last year they didn't start off well stopping the run. But now I'm starting to think, does this have something to do with the way Jonathan Gannon has these guys playing? You think about the scheme, and you think about what they're being asked to do. And this Philadelphia Eagles defense is not the biggest, but the way defenses are played now, most guys aren't really big bodies. These defenses are really designed for speed and to be able to, take care of things in pass coverage and things like that. So I just expect more from this team because of the talent. I'm not worried about the offense. The offense did start off a little sluggish, but for the most part, the offense stayed in a rhythm. The fourth quarter, we weren't really able to put up points, but for the most part, the offense did their job, putting up 31 points, and then the defense put up a touchdown, the pick six, the tip by Kaiser White, and then James Bradberry took it to their house. But other than that, and a few 3-and-outs, the defense wasn't really able to stop anything. And there's no way this team is going to make it to the playoffs or win the division or even win a playoff game if they can't stop the run. It's interesting because in the Eagles' past, they were a team that was known for stopping their run. They were a team that was known for their pass rush. And for these past 2 seasons, so far as we can see, that's not really been the case. Last season, it was obvious. We didn't have a pass rush. We were one of the worst teams when it came to sacks. And We did improve when it came to stopping the run, but overall, the defense, in my opinion, was mediocre. You look at the numbers, it says the Eagles had a top 10 defense. I guess it didn't seem that way to me. We feasted on bad quarterbacks last year. Whenever we faced a good quarterback or a good offense, basically, defense didn't look that hot. This year, we faced a Detroit Lions team that essentially is still trying to find their identity, and the Eagles got punched in the mouth straight like that. So this defense has to take their game to another level because the competition is only going to get stiffer. Teams are only going to start to fill out their identity. The Minnesota Vikings are a team that has talent, more talent than the Detroit Lions. As a matter of fact, the Minnesota Vikings just took out Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. And I watched that game, and not once were the Packers in control of that game. The Packers were flat-footed. Now, granted, there were a lot of drops on the Packers side of the ball. Christian Watson missed a wide open deep ball. He was by himself. He could have baked the cake. He could have knitted a sweater. He could have made some tea. He was wide open like that. But nonetheless, the Minnesota Vikings took care of business on the road, and that team was flying high. That team is confident now, and they're going to be coming to Philly, and it's going to be a rowdy environment. It's the home opener for the Eagles, and I expect the Eagles to play faster. I expect them to play up to the competition, but this defense is where my concerns lie. Jonathan Gannon hasn't shown me anything that would buy my trust. That's just my humble opinion. He hasn't showed anything that would allow me to commit to him as my defensive coordinator. Now, he's supposed to be this savant. He's supposed to be this defensive guru. He's supposed to be this wonder boy when it comes to defensive play calling. You know, he's a Vic Fangio disciple, but I'm not seeing the production. I'm not seeing everything he discusses, everything he talks about, everything he preaches. I'm not seeing it translate to the field. Are the players buying in? I'm not entirely sure. Are guys getting old like Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave? Possibly. But at the end of the day, there's no way that Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave, for example, shouldn't have been able to get home against second string and third string guards. That doesn't make any sense. So that begs the question, has Fletcher Cox lost a step? That's another conversation for another day. But overall, if this Philadelphia Eagles team wants to be taken serious, if they want to take the game to the next level, the defense has to step their weight up. The defense has to be able to stop the run. They have to be able to bring pressure. We didn't get a sack at all against the Detroit Lions. Some people want to say they did get one when Jared Goff bobbled the handoff or bobbled the snap, but they didn't really count that as a sack because he fumbled. They just counted it as a tackle. So there's no way we can go another season being ranked at the bottom when it comes to sacks. This pass rush has to step its weight up. Jonathan Gannon has to get creative with the pass rush. I know a lot of the time these defenses only want to send 4. They don't want to have to blitz. They don't want to have to send 5 guys or 6 guys to get to the quarterback. They want to be able to get home with their front 4. But the Eagles, so far in last season, haven't been able to do that. So should they blitz more? Maybe. But it has to be situational. It has to be timely. And that's my biggest thing. It can't be just random blitzing. I don't want Jonathan Gannon just blitzing just to say he blitzed. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for timely blitzes. I'm looking for a dominant front 4. I'm looking for a team that can stop the run and force the quarterback to make bad decisions and force them to make mistakes. You dig what I'm saying? So the more pressure we put on Kirk Cousins, the more we limit the passing or the running game, then at that point, it'd be hard for a guy like Justin Jefferson to get off because his quarterback won't be able to get the ball to him and the running back won't be able to really establish a pace for the offense. If that running game gets off, then we're screwed. The play action is going to kill us. Justin Jefferson is going to kill us, and we're going to be playing on our back foot the entire time, and we're going to have to hope the offense can outscore the Minnesota Vikings offense. But we'll see how it turns out. There's so much more to talk about. There's so much more to discuss, and there's so much more to look forward to. And look, it's early in the season. We only just got through week 1. We haven't really seen any trends established yet. So it's kind of unfair to completely be out on the defense. But what we're seeing thus far is not a change in philosophy. We're not seeing Jonathan Gannon being a more aggressive defensive coordinator. As a matter of fact, he's the same guy, if you ask me. But he told us. He made it very clear. He said that he's going to be the same guy. He said we're not doing anything different. And at first I didn't believe him, but when somebody tell you who they are, you should believe them when they tell you. And it's shit like that, you guys. I hope we can get this win against the Minnesota Vikings, and I'm going to have more to talk about as the week progresses. But You know, these Philadelphia Eagles, this defense has to tighten up. That's the only way this team is going to be formidable. That's the only way this offense can actually make a difference, because they're going to constantly be playing catch up. And I'm not sure if this offense at this moment is built to get into shootouts with teams regularly. And we'll see how it turns out. I'm your humble host, Tone DeShields II from Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got charged to the game. One love, stay humble, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay hungry.